If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Incognito searches on Google, but I thought, oh, I didn't know this. I'm sure it still spams you.
Yeah, it depends what you've got to hide. What were you hiding?
Incognito tabs, I'm reliably informed, are only there because if you want to search for a present for your wife or loved one without them knowing about it, that's why they're there. That's what they exist for.
I was in a meeting today with the good folks from the Country Land and Business
Is this a
Association.
story that you're allowed to share?
No. I was in a
I'm
meeting
checking.
today.
We are recording.
I know, that's fine. With the Country Land and
right.
Business Association, and they said that they liked the podcast. I mean, when the CLA listen to your podcast, you know that they see through the smut and innuendo that Callum provides, and they scratch beneath the surface, and they reveal, well, more smut and innuendo. But then if you dig down deep enough, then eventually you get to the nuggets of gold.
You need sort of a smut filter around us, really, don't you? Sort of a reputation filter, so that if you can just find if you switch it on and then we just sound like we do when we're at work, and then you ignore all the other bits that come out of our mouths. Although, to be fair, Callum does sound like this at work.
Mm.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why I'm self-employed. Do you know how many times I get offered jobs? I reckon probably not that often, but like every 6 months, someone says, "Look, I've got an opportunity. We're looking for a
Fall guy."
It starts with digital, and then it ends up in some kind of specialist title of video creator or marketing coordinator or something, and then I just have to tell them I'm really not employable. That's my answer, because they don't take many answers for granted. They're like, "Look, we think you might be our guy," and I'm like, I am not employable. Like,
Watch what I'm going to do next.
I do things like, it's not to say I'm incapable of being nice, but there's so much stuff in, like, towing a corporate line. Ugh, no way. No, I like being neurotic and unhinged, and I was going to say politically incorrect, but I'm not really politically incorrect. I'm just unhinged and maybe mentally handicapped. I'm not.
Well, you are scrolling on Twitter on the screen now whilst we're recording this episode.
Yeah, I was trying to find you the nice little thing that I was going to bring up next, because I've done all my prep earlier, but I'm just double checking.
Okay, yeah, just checking.
You were the kid who did their prep on the back of the school bus, aren't you?
No,
you're assuming you went to school.
I'm the kid that looked you in the eyes and said, "I've not done nothing. What are you going to do?" And then they say, "Detention." And then I say, "Nah, don't fancy that. I'm going fishing later." And
you knew you were going to be an ADHD creative, didn't you?
No, I did. I don't think I knew anything.
This sounds like Simple Minds should suddenly kick in now. You turn me on. Yeah, you're too old to have seen the after school club, whatever it's called. Too young.
Too young.
Rather. Too young to have seen the Breakfast
Club. How
Club.
dare you make fun of my references?
Yeah. What? Well, no, you surely have seen the Breakfast Club, haven't you? Haven't you? It's
John Hughes' Rite de Passage movie.
Absolutely.
I've never seen it.
Oh, right. We ought to have a boys' night at mine with some of Richard's beach leaf liqueur, some of his, what they call mouse ear chocolates. They were quite impressive as well.
Yeah. Not the other name. We're not allowed to say the other name.
No, we're not allowed to say them. No, I told Charlie that when I gave him some of his wood ear chocolates, and he ate 3, and I said, you know them funny mushrooms I told you not to eat? And he goes, that's what they are.
Oh, no.
And he he sat for about half an hour going, oh, I'm worried now. So we could sit there, so we could eat some wood ear chocolates, we could drink some beech leaf liqueur, and watch The Breakfast Club. And I can take you back to what
Can we grill meat as well?
we can do that. We can have a bit of meat outside, and we can go and just base it. And also, probably to get the full 80s vibe, something like some Adnams Tally Ho, which was the first beer I ever got drunk on. We could drink that and watch 80s films and sit around it in our vests and pants. And yeah,
Can you lend
good.
me a vest? I don't have one.
Can you lend me some pants?
Well, if we do it after Christmas, you might be all right.
Yeah, I mean, this could be your next book, couldn't it? It's sort of recreating the 80s
Sitting around in your
Suffolk.
pants. Yeah.
Is Suffolk
well-
continually the 80s?
I was, funnily enough, I was advised by a very sage man from the publishing world today. He said, yesterday actually, he said, I listened to the podcast. He said, I really think your second book should be that village romp that you suggested, rather than the one I'm actually going to do. And he told me what to write, and I went, oh, and I suddenly started getting excited about just the opportunities that I could do and slipping people into the narrative who we would know who they are and they would know who they are, but most of the readers wouldn't, but we could chuckle because I'd put all the guys who are sort of the nasty ones or the funny ones or the ones who fall over and the ladies who aren't quite what they ought to be in. And it's quite a golden opportunity, actually.
Almost an expose.
Yeah. Can I be the lusty parson?
I couldn't see you in a dog collar. Couldn't see you.
Give me 5 minutes, I can work on it.
Faithful retainer. I think the faithful but slightly silent retainer with a backstory that everyone guesses at but nobody knows.
Incredibly violent tramp that just arrives in the village one day.
With
For
a
no reason,
strong
no
Essex
backstory.
accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just mix
Dog
you
on a
two
bit of
up
string.
together. Do you know, actually, this is a true story. There was
As opposed to the other ones.
No, well, I've heard the other ones, yeah, all made up. I sold a horse back in the day to quite a grand lady up north.
Good start.
It's one of the 3 topics. Hedges, horses, or the army.
Well, that's look. Keep telling the same jokes. That's the secret. That's
so
all the great
you sold-
comedians do that. Sold a horse
You sold a
to
horse.
quite a well-to-do lady up from Yorkshire, and she was one of the joint masters of a pack of foxhounds up there. And she told me a wonderful story because she introduced me to her husband when I went up to go and deliver this horse. And he was usual sort of frightfully grand chap. And she then told me in confidential, because of course he went walkabout for 5 years. And I went, did he? Well, how? He said, oh yes, he lived as a tramp in London. And then, she said, would you believe at the puppy show, he returned with a beard. And I went, oh. And I just can imagine this chap amongst all these things. I mean, this was literally like one of these sort of Jilly Cooper novels, where all of a sudden, the Lord of the Manor appears back, looking slightly bedraggled, probably with a dog on a piece of string. She didn't actually elucidate on that. But she came back with a big beard, smelling of wee and living outside for 5 years. And just because he wanted some space. If I want some space, I'd go out for a walk with a dog, and after half an hour I go, better go back now because Yellowstone's on. But no, he was 5 years. I mean, that takes some bloody doing, doesn't it, really? Well done, him.
Have you heard from anyone else recently? Anyone? About anything? Anything other than stories about that? Although I'm now considering disappearing off to become a tramp myself, but that's unrelated to your story. That's just
What do you mean
what's happening in
become?
life. Well, tramps are normally skinnier.
Yeah, that is true. I dress like one most of the time.
I've heard some good news, and it's about the podcast. Because I was at the Hadley Show, which is a wonderful, proper agricultural show in Suffolk this Saturday. And it's one of those beautiful things, which is an absolute throwback in time. I think it's about something like its 186th renewal, which is pretty amazing. And it doesn't have plastic tat. It has just stuff. You know, it does what agricultural shows are supposed to be, is that you show things that you have produced, be that a vegetable, which is large or strangely shaped, or a better sheep.
I need to photograph one of those one day. Just loads of oldie, dusty ladies with enormous turnips looking very pleased.
This is the place to go to, the Hadley Show. So anyway, I was there with Harry Hoblin and Lizzie from Reimer Tree Nursery. So we were talking about trees, and I went and sort of did a little talk about hedgerows for wildlife. And then what was wonderful, we had regular listeners and patrons, I believe. We had Richard, we had James, we had Charlie, we had a guy called Harry. They pitched up, and one after the other, they sort of got me to sign a book, which was nice, because obviously that's...
Did they ask for their money back?
No, they bought a book, and I signed it for them with a personalised sort of little memento so that they can sell it on eBay later. And the recurring theme I had was that they were appreciative of CountrySlide. In fact, to such a degree, because Claire and I have one of these little card reader things, but we didn't remember to bring any change with us. So therefore, my book retails at $16.99. So someone gave us a £20 note, and we went, I'm afraid I haven't got any change. And he said, you can keep that. He said, because the joy that CountrySlide brings me is such. He said, because, you know, I'm out there working. All these guys either work with trees, farming, or the gardeners. And they were saying, you know, when we're out, we listen to that, and it goes, and I chuckle, and I find a kindred spirit, and I realise that life isn't actually quite so bad, because you share some of our woes, but you make them go away slightly with a laugh, which was very good. The only one downside is I've just revealed to you that someone gave me 20 quid for my book, which was $16.99, and you guys are now going to want your cut out of that, because they said that the real reason they gave us a tip was because of CountrySlide. So if Amy could edit that bit out just so that I don't owe you any money, that would be, I'd be gratefully appreciative.
It's all right, you paid for my breakfast the other day.
Oh, that's all right.
So I've had my share.
And I bought you a double-decker.
No.
You did buy me a double-decker in the wee small hours in an anonymous service station somewhere in North London.
Yeah.
This is the second time you've mentioned double decker in consecutive podcasts.
It's the same double decker, though.
Sponsorship.
It's the same one, though. We're just getting
Well,
some
that
mileage
matters.
out of this.
Have you seen how much a double-decker costs now, Callum? This is a proper gift. It's no longer just a sort of, here, have a chocolate bar. Yeah, so anyway,
It'll be a
I'm very
single
pleased.
decker soon due to inflation.
It's like the
Boris
Freddo index. How much Freddos are tells you how well the economy is doing.
Oh, I can't take it. Just seeing that. I should have invested in Freddo years ago.
Yeah.
I wonder, has anyone tracked like the FTSE 100 versus Freddo and just seen
Well, that's a
quite
Google,
what
isn't
the
it?
impact is? I'm willing to bet there's a chart, because I think I saw them at, so they used to be like 10p when I was a kid, right?
6p.
And 6p. Well,
6p.
that's outrageous. And am I way off saying that they're like £1 now?
There is a chart.
Yeah, interested.
So the predicted rise, it's 4.36% per year for the Freddo. So it's risen above inflation as well.
So if I'd invested in Freddos, so you're looking at like 4.4% on your average on FTSE 100, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Freddo, the Vanguard All Freddo index would have outbeaten it. I'm starting up a hedge fund, just based on Freddo, on confectionery.
Well, Richard's got one, hasn't he? He's got a hedge fund. It's called invoicing.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's done it.
Unfortunately, I'm still waiting for a blimmin' payment for something I did hedging-wise off a rather than a farmer from a large state thing. I'm still waiting for it now. I mean, looking where we're on the 20th of May. The hedge laying season ended on the 1st of May, and you realise just how small businesses in the countryside, and I guess probably lots of small businesses, is that when you're a small business, is that you are so down the pecking order in getting paid that it's yet another nail in your coffin. Is that it's not just the fact that the money suddenly become much more tight, but the smaller the business, the more niche your business, which all seems wonderful, but then you just don't get paid on time, which I'm sure in big businesses where they've got massive overdrafts and they can afford to ride it, but I don't know, just not getting paid is a
But the
bit
big
of a...
businesses are the worst.
Yeah.
Working with big businesses is terrible.
The only thing with small rural businesses is that even if you're working for an estate or something like that, you can go and stand menacingly in the estate office until someone pays you. I have done that at least once, completely legally and in line with all UK laws, of course. But it is that payment thing is just part of the soup of it being a fairly rough time to run, to be a sole trader or run a small rural business, because it just does feel like every day you go outside and you just wait to be kicked in the crotch, and then you're quite grateful when it only happened 3 times that day.
I have never been knocked for invoices until the end of last year and the start of this year. That's the only time I've ever been knocked for invoices in my entire career. So I think everyone's in the same boat, though. People are skint. People are just having a really hard time. But it doesn't make it any better, If you get a service or you use a service, you should pay for it, So going back to knob gags. See, the segues work so well in this show. It's our professionalism is
So slick.
It's so slick, and not, no other podcast has got this level of. It's almost like we were trained broadcasters from the BBC.
Yeah.
We are trained just in something else.
Yes, well,
That's
that's the
different
problem.
skill.
They've left. It's back to that sort of metaphor about if you give a chimpanzee a typewriter and you let them slap away for it long enough, eventually they will type out a Shakespeare sonnet. Basically, what they do with us is they go and sort of have this gubbins, whatever happens in my computer, and I've got my little headphone on that makes me look like a call center operator. And eventually, some sense comes out with us, which puts us into the top 20% of podcasts in the UK. So it proves that theory about the chimpanzees and the typewriter. So well done us.
Just to go back on that, do you believe that all of this podcast happens inside your computer? Like when you go to sleep, the podcast goes to work.
It does, doesn't it? When I switch my computer off, the internet goes to sleep. That's science, that is.
We had a very lovely thing said about us on x.com.
Just say Twitter like everyone else still does.
No, I like x.com.
Really?
Like, go full Elon. Yeah.
Oh.
Without the salute.
What happened on Elon's Twitter? What do they say?
Twitterix.
At CountrySlide Pod. Another great episode last week. One particular highlight, Callum and his monkey on a rock anecdote, which I'm not going to go back into.
No, please don't.
It was a lapse of judgment.
It was lightning in a bottle, that one.
Yeah, it was just a one-off. In all seriousness, this podcast offers a... Wow.
I love that we can't get in all seriousness out because we're dicking around too much.
Sorry.
In all seriousness, this... Listen, this is. It's not even my story time. I'm not bothered. I've got all night.
Tell the story. No, we haven't. Come on, tell the story.
In all seriousness, this Could you just do this as a voiceover? We'll edit it later.
Oh, no, I'll do it for you. In all seriousness, go on, Callum.
This podcast offers a real view of issues out there in the rural sector. I emphasise the word real because so much of what, one of three,
Scroll down.
is reported on mainstream media and social platforms alike is often skewed to portray a particular message or promote a particular cause. You don't always have to agree with everything, but I believe this podcast says it how it is, and I respect it for that. Keep up the good work. It's very much appreciated.
Who sent that in?
Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that a
Aspect
nice
Forestry.
thing to say? Yeah, he's a good old boy.
I mean, we do promote a certain agenda here, which mostly is selling a bloody book.
Nonsense.
Which
We've
we've been
book's
ramping
out
up to
now.
that over 6 months. It's out now. It's like the damage is done. It's out there in the world.
Yeah,
But
selling well.
I don't know the real thing, that because there are other rural podcasts out there. There's quite a few good farming ones, and there's our the yin to our yang, which is Guns on Pegs, who said some nice things about us in their last episode, and I'd like to reciprocate by saying, if you come near me, I'll break your legs.
Yeah.
Wow. So the
This is gonna come to a head.
Oh no, you two are. I feel like I've actually been the professional one in this, and I'm the one with the wanking gags. Anyway, so the follow-on for the conversation was the role that humour can play. It lightens the mood and keeps us all going. And bugger me, we need that at the moment. The balance between serious discussion and humour is important, and you get it spot on. The reflection on how a lot of us live our everyday lives. So that was that. I think everybody seems to be, and this is the feedback that you had at the Hadley show. Everybody seems to be going through the mill a bit at the moment. And I do like to think that there's a lonely old gamekeeper somewhere that, the season's over, doesn't get out much, and he's sitting there giggling along to us three being absolute buffoons over and over again and getting something out of it.
A few people have said to me that they look forward to the show because they can listen to it whilst they're in the tractor or the sprayer or on the machine, because they put it on the radio Bluetooth thing, or they put it on their earbuds, and they just listen to us talk crap for an hour and then carry on doing their thing. So I want people to send in photos of them listening to the podcast whilst doing something, and we'll share them out on our social media. Only if it's safe for work. I mean, if you want to be nude in a tractor, that's fine, but just make sure it's, above the waterline.
At CountrySlide Pod.
There's all sorts in there. I mean,
very clever how Amy just managed to go and do your accent there, Richard. I'm impressed by her there. That's very good.
Given our
just like
audience
you.
is 25% women, as we found out recently through the stats. That's going to be a diverse set of photos coming in. So let's try and keep it something we can actually post on Instagram.
No. Look, if we can put that on the patrons, surely. That's the point of, having a patron account.
We just ask ladies to send nudes.
Yeah. This isn't my kind of radio. No, I don't want that.
No.
Anyway, look, Richard, we're talking about
producer
people.
Amy just put Jesus Christ no in the chat.
You don't get that on Radio 4. Richard mentioned there in the bit about random people coming up to him at the show that there were a few patrons in there. And if you want to become in that happy band of brothers and sisters that supports the show and gives us extra money in return for extra content and behind-the-scenes stuff occasionally, and the ability to reach out to us directly and tell us how awful we are, you can join our Patreon. So the details are in all the show notes. If you go into your podcast app and click on there's a load of links, and one of them is on Patreon, or you can go to CountrySlide.co.uk, have a look on the website there. And if you don't want to join Patreon, but you would like to give us some money, we've got this Ko-fi thing on there, and lots of people have given, I say lots of people, some people have given us that in the past. We will, though, I'm afraid, take the money you give us and spend it on vitally important things like King's Ginger at the Game Fair and some cigars, maybe.
And I'm also told that you may need to spend it on your plumbing, Richard. Is this true?
Well, so
that sounds expensive.
Well, it's always time for these things. No, things have come to a bit of a head with our outside toilet. So I need to tell you about it because the situation is so ridiculous now that I think it's worthy of a story because rural plumbing...
You have an inside toilet as well, right?
Sure. So we have an outside toilet out in the yard, and due to the unique way our little homestead, farm, whatever, small holding is plumbed, we are on main sewage for some reason. The problem is the main sewer is about 400 yards away, so we've got this labyrinthine set of twisting 3-inch and 4-inch clay pipes that takes you there, which I have completely mentally mapped out now. I know where every single one of them is, where all these manholes are, which is uphill of which has got the flat bit. We've got a set of draining rods that will reach from here to the moon and all the attachments for it because you have to get through all these different things. One year we were hitting a blockage somewhere with the draining rods, so I worked out with a compass bearing and pacing and measuring out draining rods where the blockage was, dug down to it and found a manhole cover that's 4 feet underground. They'd put the manhole inspection pit in, put a lid on it, and then buried it in 4 feet of soil. This is all the previous...
Why?
Whoever owned this place in the 60s, I don't know if he knew I was going to come and live here and he did it just to annoy me, but I keep finding things like this, like there's hidden wells, but one of the wells was then turned into a drain for the shipping, so all the slurry water out of the milking parlour went into the well.
You might need to explain what a shippon is to Callum, because it's a West Country term, isn't it?
It is. It's like a little milking shed barn thing when you only had like 4 cows. So you had a little shipping thing there, but there was normally a little stall as well next door where you might be for carving, or you'd have one in there before you took it to market or something. But it's basically
got you.
It's tiny.
I
thought
you
barn.
Meant carving, as in like whittling away with a little.
Well, I use mine for woodwork now. Yeah. So our outside toilet hasn't been the best of affairs for a while. I mean, once you got the drain sorted, there was then the flushing problem because...
Oh, was this what Amy was rodding on International Women's Day?
That was our drain. She was rodding on International Women's Day, and I took the glamorous photo of her. Yeah, when you if you use our outside toilet, someone's coming to work on the place, or we're working outside, and they say, "I'm just going to use the loo." He said, "You have to give them a briefing because the handle snapped off a long time ago, and I haven't replaced the flush valve. So there's a 6-inch long screw screwed into the top of the flush bit, and you have to put your hand in the cistern into the water and pull on the top of this screw to make it flush."
Oh.
So, but it's clean water in the cistern, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but it's the admin as well.
It is the admin, and then it doesn't flush that well. So sometimes you needed a bucket as well. And this is like now when friends are coming over, now they know that you might need to take a bucket in there with you. You could use the one in the house, but no, we if somebody just wants to use the outside one or the muddy, they go there, but they need the briefing. They need sort of a toolbox talk before they can go and use it. So I thought, right, I'm going to replace all this. And we were putting new water mains in anyway. So I ran a bit of 25mm MDPE pipe in. So which is great because you buy a 100-metre roll of MDPE pipe for about 50 quid and then have to spend £4,000 on all the fittings just to get it go around corners and do junctions and things. Because the pipe's really cheap, but all the bits that go with it are expensive. But then I ran out of time to fix it. So if you go into our outside toilet now, to fill the cistern, you have to get the bit of MDPE pipe lined up into the cistern, turn the massive ball cock onto it and fill it. And then to flush, you have to put your hand in and pull the screw thing up to flush it. And then if it doesn't go the first time, you have to refill it with the MDPE pipe. Basically, now going to the toilet outside here is like driving the Flying Scotsman. You've got to keep fiddling with valves and doing things all the time just to get through. And I know I've got to fix it, but I might not fix it for a year because it works just enough. And that's always a curse. When something works just enough to live with, it means it won't get fixed again because there's always something that's more important.
It sounds like Captain Nemo's toilet off the Nautilus. It's sort of got more valves and things than it ever needs. Tell you what, it's a steampunk bog. That's what it is. It's got lots of valves and things that you don't need, but you think it looks quirky and steampunk toilets. Actually, you can market that.
Yeah. Are you on mains where you are? I've been to your house, so I should know, but I didn't inspect your plumbing, as it were.
No, we're on mains because we're quite close. We're quite close to a B road where I think they plumbed it in. But you see, the good news is that we've got quite fast. Well, you say it's crap broadband, but for Suffolk it's quite quick. So we've got mains drainage, mains water, and quite relatively fast broadband. All because there was one of the. I think he was the chairman of Suffolk County Council or something like that. Used to live just up the road. So miraculously, we always had all the amenities plumbed in first into our thing. Now, I'm not saying there was any nepotism going on here, but we do. We have mains drainage, whereas half the rest of the village is still on septic tanks. But we have all the amenities that most people would accept. Although I have to say, because we're quite flat here, we struggle with water pressure. So, Suffolk's quite famous because we've got water towers everywhere where they have to sort of plumb it up. Now, ever since I turned 50, I wake up religiously at about 4:55. In fact, there's no about. I wake up at 4:55.
Not 4:57.
Because I need a wee. Yeah, no, not 4:57. If I wake up at 4:57, I'll wet myself. But I know I need to get up and I need to go to the loo. Now, sometimes I get up and I think, oh, God, I'm up so early. I've let the dogs out, fed them. I think, what am I going to do for the next hour before I have to want to start doing stuff? So I think I'll have a bath. Well, if I turn the tap on, because the water pressure is so low in the village because they haven't basically sent the thing up the water tower to plunge it back down again, I have to go and turn on every tap in the house to build up our own individual water pressure to make our boiler kick in. And it is quite funny. So if you ever have visitors, and I'm still getting up at 4:55, to go and do all that, and I have my bath, I'm sure these poor sods go and sit around saying, what the bloody hell's that idiot doing? He's invited us here to this house. He's made us get drunk, and now he's turned on every tap in the house, and he's padding around naked with a couple of cocker spaniels jumping around him. And yeah, it wouldn't be actually the Jilly Cooper scene that some people think that exists in my house. It's basically just a man with a pot belly and some taps.
You have a bath at what time?
Well, about 5:30. 5:30, and then I get out the bath at 6, and then I wake everyone up saying, come on, look, if I'm up, waked and washed, then you should be too.
I don't know why I find that absolutely ludicrous.
Why?
I don't think I've ever had a bath in the morning in my life. Bath is a sort of nighttime. I don't really bath.
Yeah, you don't start
more
the day
of a
with
shower.
a bath. No.
You do, I think you are a wild outlier for starting your day with a bath.
I think he's a wild outlier anyway.
I know. I mean, it's hardly news, but I think you're doing it wrong. Is what I'm saying.
I've always been a big fan of the bath.
You end the day with a bath, don't you?
No, not me. Well, for such a long while, when I was in Leicestershire, I didn't have a shower. I only had a bath. So I had to have that. And I broke my sternum once in a fall off a horse. And it wasn't very clever. But the Leicester Royal Infirmary... No. So I was a civvy then. I was selling horses for a living.
Right.
And I broke my sternum.
One of the world's then.
One of my horses reared up, rolled down an old railway embankment, and the pommel of the saddle caught me right square in the chest, and it broke my sternum. I went to hospital, and basically, when you break your sternum, once they've regulated your heartbeat, they go, well, there's not a lot you can do. And the doctor was quite a good old boy. He said, look, it's Friday night, you're in Leicester, you've you're going to get stabbed probably in the hospital, so get home. So I sort of struggled off home, like walking along like sort of Yoda. And I got back home, and the next morning I had my morning bath, and I managed to struggle into there. But when you break your sternum, you lose all strength in your chest. Now, I wasn't a married man back then, and I had 4 girls working for me, and so I went and ran this bath, and I had got into it, went, oh, felt so ill. I got this broken sternum, and then the bath water went a bit cold, and I tried to lean forward to go and turn the hot tap on and pull the plug out with my foot and just top it up, and I couldn't move. And so I was then laid in this cold bath for quite a long while, and the girls I could hear working away with the horses downstairs, because I lived in a flat above the stables, and they carried on, and they carried on. And I'd been laying in this bath for about 3 hours of cold water, right? I couldn't move because I hadn't got any strength in my arms because my rib cage was broken. And eventually, one of the girls sort of came upstairs, and she said, Richard, we've finished, the horses are going for breakfast now. And I said, can you help me out of the bath? Now, I've been laying in this bath of cold water for 3 hours. Now, you could be a star of adult films and you still would look a little bit pathetic. And this poor girl, she had to come in and get one of the other ones to lift me out, looking like the last turkey in the bloody shop. And, it's amazing they carried on working for you for another couple of years, really. Horrible. Even I looked at myself.
Look a bit like Mr. Burns.
Yes, I'm in the
Exactly
same
that.
place, yeah. With stories like that, you should be a comedian. Have you ever thought of appearing at any kind of comedy events?
Well, it's funny you say that, Richard, because yes. Now, I
Professional.
never, ever use the podcast as a medium to plug anything that I do, like my book Words from the
No,
Hedge.
because that would be
I
utterly fucking shameless, wouldn't it, if you did?
It's shameless, and I would say unprofessional. However, I am going to the Exeter Comedy Festival, and on the 7th of June, I'm going to. They're trying a new thing, which is a bit scary, right? At the Book Bag Bookshop in Exeter. Rather than the standard comedy stuff, they're going to do some literary thing, and they've asked me to go and do it, and I'm going to get interviewed by a hugely funny fella called Will Adamsdale, who's actually quite a proper sort of actor and comedian. He's going to be dressed as a hedge. I'm going to be dressed as me, and there are tickets available. We'll put them in the show notes, I believe, as the term goes. But if you're in the West Country, you're down in Exeter on the 7th of June around the Exeter Comedy Festival. Do come along and see me, because I'm not going to be funny, but Will Adamsdale genuinely is. And so he's going to interview me dressed as a hedge, and I'll talk about my book and hedge laying, and he'll probably put lots of gags that, much like Richard's, I don't really understand. But anyway, so that's come along, Exeter.
And if that's too scary and too close to the West Country for you, then if you would like to be somewhere 3 hours to the east of there, at Gratham, then you can come on to the South Downs Food and Nature Fest, also on the 7th of June, where you can hear me doing wild food walks and foraging talks, and I'm on stage with, I think I'm on a panel, but there's Charles Dowding's there, and Roger Morgan Grenville, and Sam Beard's there, and all these other people, Mark Cocker. So I'm going to be part of that mostly bearded lineup there, talking about food and regenerative farming and connections to nature. So I have looked at it. I don't think you can do my bit and then drive 3 hours and get to Richard's in time. You'll have to choose.
So you've got a choice.
It's
yeah. Let's go and do that. If you come to Exeter or the West Country or West Sussex, that it's good. We're spreading the love of CountrySlide east and west.
Spreading the smear.
Yes, smearing it across the countryside.
Callum, what are you doing on the 7th of June?
I worked with a man from the Middle East the other day. He was from around Gratham.
Hey,
the Middle East.
Middle East, Gratham, isn't it? Yeah, Nottingham, anywhere over that way. Lincoln, Middle East.
What?
That's Grantham, you think?
That's Grantham, you lunatic. Goodness me, honestly. What
wrong
did you
one.
get in your geography O level? GCSE, sorry. What did you get?
Non-attendance, I think.
Do you want to know a funny story?
Go on.
One time. Actually, where should I go with this? I'll tell you the funny story. Then guess what? I've also got one of these events that I need to tell you about.
Oh, for the love of
And
God.
that is also a nice, funny story. At one point, Graham Downing was telling me about a place, and I didn't know where it was. It was somewhere near like Bath or something, but it was a very specific place. And then I asked him some really silly questions like, so is it like, it was naming places I didn't know it was near. I was like, oh, is it near like Bristol? And he was like, oh, I was like, yeah, it's quite near Bristol. I was like, but it's like south of Birmingham, isn't it? He's like, no, it's not south of Birmingham. And in the end, after asking him about 4 or 5 questions, I just started naming places wildly out of it. I was like, is it near Luton? And I'm sitting in this high seat going, is it near Luton? Is it north of Luton? He's like, no, I've just told you it was near Bristol. And I think at one point, I properly rattled him. And it was great. It was great fun. What
Did he
better
cock
stuff
his,
to do in a
cock
high
his
seat?
rifle with menace and then look at you?
He didn't, but I definitely wound him up a little bit. And it was great fun for me.
Did he throw
And,
a 308 that you're saying the next one's coming faster?
I'm sure that his wife is absolutely lovely. And if I told her this story, I think she'd probably make a little smile, and probably George Downing as well. He'd probably find that was quite funny.
So
Slightly winding him up. So I got a phone call saying we're hosting an event called the Festival of Outdoor Photography. It's like, okay, where is it? It's all about photographers that shoot for photographs in the outdoors. There's going to be talks there. So, the people will be giving a talk, and then afterwards they'll have like a workshop of outdoor photography. And I thought, this sounds really good. Sign me up, Been an outdoor photographer for many years. Where is it? South Kensington. Well, I know it. We've just been to the very place.
Somewhere to eat there. 2 places to eat.
Yes.
And I thought, this could be right up my street. And they said, yeah, we need
Festival of Outdoor Photography in the middle of London.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they are allowed in the city. And it's indoors, which is good.
Outdoor. So hold on. Let me just right. So this is a festival of outdoor photography.
Yeah, go on. Ask the questions.
In South Kensington, indoors.
Uh-huh.
So you can see Holland Park through the window, and that's basically it.
You can hear the vibration of the tube line as you go through.
It's more a community event.
Is it?
So then we were, they spoke about this, and I thought, this sounds really good. And then the question come up of, we need someone to photograph the event. Do you fancy it? So I'm not speaking. I'm just photographing the event because I'm an indoor photographer as well as an outdoor photographer.
Britain's best male field sports photographer is going to be there anonymously photographing these events of somebody saying, I shot a photo of a bluebell in Richmond Park somewhere.
Pretty much, yeah.
Brilliant.
They don't want pictures of people, slotting deer or killing rabbits or something. Maybe they're not ready for it.
Perfect shot
Maybe.
on a 200mm lens of somebody exploding a pheasant.
Yeah. Did you see his head go? Look at that. Let me slow it down for you. This is 30 frames per second, bruv. Look at that. Look at his head go.
Why did you start off with sort of West Country straw dogs and end up with Essex boys at the end there? Your roving accents around the country.
I was good. Yeah, I'm international, I know, me.
You're international, but you're not intentional.
It's diversity, mate. I could do... Do you want me to do Indian?
No.
Do you want to do a great Indian one? If you...
No.
Oh,
No.
No, because it'll sound
okay.
Welsh in about three
I was
sentences.
going to say, yeah.
We had a lad in my troop who came from Flintshire, and he sounded like a Scouser, and he got so cross when we used to say,
It is.
"You're a Scouser." He goes, "No, I'm from Flintshire," and he was very, very angry about that.
And everywhere east of the Clwydian Range is basically Merseyside that got shoved over a little bit. And everything north of the A55 is as well. Wales starts at the summit of Moel Famau. 6 people got that reference.
Callum and I were talking about how difficult it is for you to get anywhere. It is ridiculous, isn't it? Where you live up
Well,
in
not to
North
Wales.
It's well,
Actually, all the South Wales is a bit of a pain in the
You can't
arse.
even get to South Wales, can you, from yours?
No,
Am I
can't.
right in saying
you have to go to Hereford first?
Yeah, the east-west is relatively doable, but well, obviously you fall in the sea if you go much further west. But but north-south is like that they didn't ever think about building roads that way. Is that right? Is this some sort of racism against Wales?
The North Wales economy is more dependent on Merseyside and Manchester than it is on Cardiff, except all of the stuff around. Well, all the stuff around policy and everything, it's sort of, for Wales, is all based around Cardiff and the Bay. But then everyone here works for a business over on the other side of the border. Like Wrexham Industrial Estate, I think, is one of the biggest in Europe. It's got the biggest prison in Europe, certainly. But
Nice.
Big football team.
big football team, Ryan Reynolds, yeah. But it's a long way from all these things that you're getting invited to in London and Essex. And Callum said, oh, yeah, we can get invited to this place. We could all go. It's like, you could. I'd have to book off 3 days off work.
Well, there's a simple answer.
I need to tell you.
I don't want to move to
tell you
Suffolk.
the last.
1984.
I need to tell you the last bit.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to put the link in for the Festival of Photography. You can go on it.
That seems
I'll
like
be
so
there on
long
Saturday.
ago now we were
I
talking
know,
about.
but you carried on.
Oh,
You can
sorry.
get 40% off with the ticket APCOM 40, which will be in the show notes.
Right.
And I will be there on the Saturday if anyone wants to have a beer.
How did that conversation come about? Did you say, I'm on this rural podcast? If you can give me a discount code, I can get people to the show.
Not exactly like that, but
You've moved on from just going up to other hosts and saying, we've got more listeners than you.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think we call that truth bombs.
I call it get aggressively going up to podcast hosts and annoying them.
Oh, no, it's just that's in your face marketing. I like it. Direct marketing, very direct. Anyway,
Direct to inbox.
Anyway, here's an interesting thing. There was announced today, Future Countryside did a poll. Now, Future Countryside, if you don't know what that is basically a bit of a think tank, right? And before the people who might not like things with Countryside in it, because they say, oh, it's all, all you lot. Well, I'll tell you who it is. You've basically got Julia Aglenbury, who's the professor in practice at the University of Cumbria. You've got Elizabeth Buchanan. You've got Ewan Cameron. You've got Jake Fines. You've got Robert Gascoigne Cecil. You might have noticed Gascoigne Cecil, he's as in Earl of. You've got Julian Glover, you've got Nick Herbert, you've got Sean McGeever, you've got Sarah Mukherjee, you've got Emily Norton, who we ought to have as a guest because she's an absolute genius. You've got this array of individuals who are proper people from all cross-sections of people who have got some skin in the game of the countryside, and they're not just on our side of the fence. Anyway, they did a poll, right? And they went and did some proper looking in of what Gen Z. Is it Gen Z or Gen Z, Callum? You're closer to Gen Z, because what is Gen Z? You look this up for me. What age group is it?
It's an American, so officially they'll be the 13 to 28-year-olds now.
Okay, right. So
comes from America, so
if
Gen
it comes from America,
Z,
then we'll go with that. We'll call it Gen Z. We'll just pretend we can't use cutlery properly and we can't spell colour, and Gen Z
Aluminum.
it is. Yeah, aluminum. Anyway, they did a poll about what the Gen Z people think about the countryside. And now I sent this to you because I thought, well, this is a fascinating bit of research as to what young people, and let's be perfectly honest, this is a subject that has very frequently cropped up, is, what's the next generation going to be doing? Where they're from, and what they thought about people, what they thought about the countryside, what they thought about etc. And a couple of things that struck me.
I read
which
this
was,
over. Fascinating
yes,
reading.
isn't it?
Actually.
And there's a couple of things that struck me. So here's a question. If you could live anywhere you wished, which of the following would you live in? Was it a city, a town, a suburb, a market town, or a village? Right? The most popular was a city. 53% of the people who responded said they wanted to live in a city. 32% said a town. 25% said a suburb. 24% said a village, and 11% a market town. So therefore, it's interesting is that where are they building all these houses at the moment? Well, they're building them in villages or on the edge of market towns. And as the data says here, none of these young people want to live there. They all want to live in the city or in a town or a suburb. So that's not actually that great. And there's another one in here, and I'm going to scratch this itch because I think it's very interesting, really, which is the thing that we were talking about the other day. If a GCSE qualification focusing on natural history, e.g. climate change, wildlife and biodiversity, had been available when you were at school, how interested would you be in taking it? 75% said they would be interested in a natural GCSE qualification. Only 21% said they would not. So it's very interesting that the government decided, because this was they said it was a Tory policy, which they didn't want to do, yet 75% of Gen Z said that they would be very interested in studying a natural history GCSE.
Will you be elated or disappointed to find out that actually it's going ahead?
Was it? Oh, well, delete all that shit then.
But it's they've still said Bear Grylls and Chris Packham. But it's coming back.
What?
But it's like, so the qualification gained cross-party political support and endorsements from Bear Grylls, Chris Packham and Floella Benjamin, as well as institutions like the Eden Project and the Natural History Museum. The only reason I was so confident on it was because I was talking to somebody about it last week. Whether what we'll get actually bears any relationship to what happens in the British countryside now versus will it be natural history GCSE that's about elephants and tigers and polar bears and charismatic megafauna from overseas, or will it actually be about the fact that predator control is one of the biggest factors in survival of ground nesting and endangered birds? You know, which one are they going to go for? If it's going to be a British natural history GCSE, there's not much else in those level 3, 4 and 5 qualifications that focuses on British issues, on British history, or covers broad scope. So I'd suggest maybe it might exist in name, but not as originally intended. That might be... that would be my bet.
There you go. So basically what they've done is that this government has shoehorned in something which is going to encompass all sorts of old tut, and it's not what Mary Colwell was saying, is where we're going to teach our youngsters whether they come from a middle of a city or from deepest, darkest Suffolk. No, they're not going to. I agree with you. So it's just a pants thing, and it's yet another fudge.
And in your defence, which I don't know why I'm doing, but maybe I'm just feeling good about things tonight.
Do that. I need all the defence.
Ever since that was announced, you have been flat out trying to sell a book.
Yes. Why so?
You've barely been upright or sober, apart from the times you've been driving.
No, I've been nothing but sober. This is probably the problem. You know, I'm a bit.
I
feel a bit like Father Jack.
Launch, not you.
No, exactly. I feel like Father Jack when he went sober. He's suddenly sort of asking, where's the other 3 when he's looking at Father Ted, because he's been seeing in triple for such a long while and he's suddenly sober. Here's another interesting thing from that. What do you feel are the barriers to you visiting the countryside? Now, a lot of the narrative that we hear is that the countryside is racist and that we're all unwelcoming, parochial, sort of insular individuals who don't do it. Here's the actual, what the stats from this research says, is 73% of the respondents say that the barriers to visiting the countryside, who report there is a barrier, is 73% say distance, 70% not having enough time, 68% transport costs, and 60% say available transport links, and similar sort of number for not knowing which areas you're able to visit. I'm going to scroll down all the way to lack of diversity, e.g. different social and ethnic groups, and not feeling welcome are the two least popular answers from this research. So this narrative that you see virtually every month that The Guardian seems to portray is that we're all a bunch of racists who don't welcome anybody. From this research, this seems to say that that is the least influential factor in people not coming to visit the countryside. So it's, you know, what's that say to you?
I think the tourism's such a big part of well, Prido will know all about this. Tourism's such a big part of the countryside these days. Getting people, they can't not be welcoming. Like, they have to welcome people and engage with people from outside as tourist or day visitors in order for it to be for the economy to be a bit
Depends where you are.
no.
Well, it depends where you are. But should we move on and talk about this in the patrons only bit at the end? Because
That's a good idea.
This is we've come to our end bit now, and there's people who pay us money every single month for this absolute nonsense. So, if you want to be in that little club, then go and sign up to our Patreon. Go and search for CountrySlide on Patreon, or go and look at the show notes. And Amy's about to tell me that it's not down as CountrySlide, it's down as something else on Patreon. But go and look in the show notes, there's a link in there, and you'll find out what we're about to say next. But just to fill that gap in the meantime, Callum, can you make a weird noise?
I'd like you to just share this. Lots of people shared it last week, actually, and lots of different episodes. So, yeah, all I will say is share this podcast, and don't forget to...
Goodness.
Please don't make that face ever again.